Well, hey, good morning, guys, and good morning, I guess, families in Comel County and maybe beyond as well. I'm Jason Carlettini. I'm the community pastor over at Riverside Community Church, and also have the privilege of serving with the Hill Country Hope for Mental Health team as the director of that organization. And what we do as Hill Country Hope for Mental Health is seek to help families, bringing awareness and education and resources around mental health related issues and stigmas that people are facing. And so in the middle of this corona pandemic that we are in right now, we had an event scheduled for today, March 30th. And so we decided, since I have these two amazing gentlemen, Dr. Beach and Mr. Smith here, that we're going to be a part of that, to readjust and do a little Zoom seminar, basically conversation, really more than anything, around what we were going to talk about. That was school-related stress. Obviously, right now, there's a lot of parts of the normal everyday school life that aren't active, but the education, the home, all of those things are still a part of our everyday life for those families like myself, like these gentlemen who have kiddos at home. And so we just wanted to take a moment to share some of that with you guys and have a little bit of a conversation that we think might be helpful. So without further ado, I'm going to allow Dr. Beach with Beach Consulting and Mr. Smith, who has been the longtime principal at Spring Branch Middle School and figurehead here in our community, introduce themselves just for a second, and we'll jump in and hopefully share some things that might help you families out.
All right, I guess I'll go ahead. I think I was second in that lineup there. So my name is Dr. John Beach. I am a psychologist whose office is in Bulverde, and I specialize in sport and performance consulting. So do a lot of work with families and children, adolescents on counseling, things like anxiety, depression, stress management, things like that, but also work with a lot of folks who want to be better leaders in sport, performance, whether it's business or theater or art or music or other things that are really performance-oriented endeavors. So really enjoy helping folks. And really the goal is to help people figure out what their strengths are and maximize those. So we focus on strengths and building up the challenges and figuring out what obstacles are getting in the way of their dreams.
And my name is Chris Smith. I'm currently the principal at Spring Branch Middle School. This is my 10th year as the principal at Spring Branch. This is my 24th year in education.
And Chris, you still don't have very many gray hairs. That's amazing.
Well, there's the bald spot in the back. So yeah, I spent 10 years at the middle school. Prior to that, my years were in actually high school. I was an assistant principal, and I started my career as a geography teacher. And so it's an honor to be here with you guys, and hopefully I'll provide some insight on the educational front. I will tell you, in my 24 years, I've experienced a lot of unique things, but this is a first. We've said that a lot. I'm hearing that a lot on the news and the papers. That, this is the first time we've ever dealt with something like this. So as an educator, it's very interesting, and maybe I can get into a little bit of what we're trying to do to help families out and students out. And like you said, I'm a dad of two teenage daughters myself, and so I have those two hats that I'm trying to deal with right now. So we understand it's a challenge, and hopefully today we'll be able to provide a little insight, maybe some help for some families. So thanks for asking me to be on this panel.
Yeah, we're thankful to have you, Mr. Smith and Dr. Beach. That I'm thankful that you guys were already planning on being a part of that original event to share resources and help to our community. And so thank you for your willingness to do that. Before we jump in, I'm just going to mention also real quickly, this will be shared around at a bunch of different places. And one of the things we've even talked about is we don't know what's going to happen in the coming weeks as far as education and this all rolling out. Everybody's planning. Mr. Smith, the district is planning as best as they can. So there might be opportunities to help families with additional versions of these in the future. So wherever you see this, you can comment, you can share, you can go back to the Hill Country Hope for Mental Health home Facebook page and send us some information on things that would be helpful for your family if we do future things like this, because obviously we want to meet you where you're at. You can track me down on there or at the Riverside page and email me, and I'd be happy to hear some of those things and build a little bit of an understanding of how we can best help you families. So we're going to share what we have so far, and then we'll go from there. So to start off with, guys, would you just maybe take a couple of minutes and share a little bit about what's the state of our community, especially in regards to families and education right now in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic, from your perspective that you see?
So I guess go ahead, Mr. Smith, go ahead.
Okay, I guess I'll start. Obviously, with education, that's the biggest impact, I believe, on parents right now, is that your kids are home. I think the school district and with the lead of Mr. Kim has done a fantastic job. It's gone all the way up to the state level. I know the local superintendents, they're meeting together in meetings very similar to this, and they're meeting as a group of superintendents. They're also meeting with the commissioner of education, and there's also meetings that they have with the governor. So the school district is getting the most up-to-date information. It is very fluid and what's happening. Those that are in the Comal ISD, you understand we had a start date of April 6th, and now we've pushed that back to April 24th. And with those deadlines being pushed back as far as getting started, we had to start looking at what we were going to do curriculum-wise. The biggest challenge we have is obviously access. We're not a one-to-one district, meaning that we don't have devices for all students that have internet capability. And then also you have to take an account for students with particular needs, such as a special ed student, a 504 student, things like that. So you have to do all these planning parts of that to make sure that we're utilizing that. So what we've done, we have set up on our website, on the district website and the campus website, resources for teachers, resource for teachers as well as students and families. And then today, we're launching phase 1 of what we call our residential learning program. And teachers have office hours set up so that students and parents can get on there and talk with the parents or with the teachers. And then our teachers this week are developing lesson plans. Right now, it's just been resources that you could do, and it's not required. We're not putting out grades right now. But as we develop the residential home learning program, there are going to be some lessons that teachers do. They're going to be recorded because we're finding one of the challenges that as parents are working at home, they may only have 1 or 2 devices. And so the parent has to work their 8-hour day or their 10-hour day, and then the student may get that afterwards. And so we're going to record those lessons so they can view them whenever they have that device. And then those office hours are meant to support that. So that's one of the misconceptions out there, that these are going to be lessons that these students have to go to. They can't miss out. That's not necessarily true, because we understand you may have that single mom with multiple kids and they only have 1 computer. We also have hard copies of those packets of that information that are at the 10 elementary distribution sites that we are distributing meals. They can pick up that work in a worksheet form. So that information is out there as well. So hopefully, as we develop this week and continue to next week, we'll refine that. Like I said, we've never done this before, and we're going to make some mistakes, but I think we're doing what we think is in the best interest of students.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things for families. I know it's been helpful for myself to remember is none of us have prepared. There's really no one who's prepared for this but prior to any of this happening. So it is easy to sit on the sideline and maybe think, oh, why hasn't But I know in some of the decisions I've just made with our team, just for our little church. I mean, those are hard decisions, trying to figure out all of that. So my encouragement, as hard as it might be, all of us having kids at home and understanding that dynamic is, families to be patient with the district. And it does sound like there's a lot of good activity going on and things are coming together. And, we might find in hindsight after all of this that our district was better off because of the extra time that we took to plan and prepare. So, Dr. Beach, what about you? What are some of the things that you're seeing in the community, with families?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm continuing through this process to meet with folks virtually through kind of teleconferencing appointments and things like that. And so it's really interesting. I'm seeing a lot of different reactions. I'll start on the positive. I've met with some, I'd say, introverted teens and youth and adults who really often live their lives pretty isolated. They do a lot of reading. They may meet with friends online and things like that anyways. And so that's real natural for them, and they don't need as much in-person interaction. And so I've talked with some that are just fine with the isolation piece of this. Now, of course, that's different if their family is directly impacted by the illnesses. But pretty remarkable that some are just fine with this. So what I'd say to those folks is, think about people that you know in your life who are really social, that you care about, and reach out to them, because there are folks that are extroverted that really thrive on in-person interaction. And I'll admit, I'm one of them. And some folks are struggling right now. They really are struggling with the distance and not being able to have physical contact, hugs from people, or just even face-to-face interaction. They really are struggling. And so I want to kind of, give a shout out to folks like seniors, seniors in high school right now. I've talked to some who are missing their final golf season, their FFA, showings, their theater productions, their graduations, their proms, their milestones, and that might be an eighth grader, it might be a senior in high school, it might be a fifth grader where there's end of year and even graduation ceremonies and things like that. And so I just want to say, if you're one of those folks that's missing out on a real milestone like that, we're truly sorry. And so I've seen folks that are really struggling with those kind of things and struggling to kind of keep in touch with their friends. And I'm seeing, sadly, some situations where young people, and some even adults as well, are truly setting into place a pattern that concerns me, that worries me about maybe, staying up really late at night, sleeping most of the day, doing a lot of online gaming or other electronic stuff. And so I really, really want to encourage you, really whatever age you are, to try to really take care of yourself in this, and to recognize that American Academy of Pediatrics suggests 2 hours per day of electronics outside of school is the max. It's good for our brains. So really try to be aware of how much time am I spending online? How much time am I connecting instead of the connection, right, that we desire and really need? And so try to pay attention to that yourself, so that parents or others aren't having to police you with that. They may be doing some of that, but I want you to really try to take it upon yourself to say, I need to pay attention to what's good for me. And what I'm seeing is what's good is to create a schedule for yourself, to write out a calendar and make it yours. If it's detail oriented and you like to get a spreadsheet out and go on Word and do text boxes and make it look really, professional, or if you're really creative, freehand it, draw pictures on it, but set a daily schedule for yourself where you work in some work time with school, you do some creative time, you take time to read, you take time to get outside, get some vitamin D where you're not around other, close contact with others, but you're in nature. There's so much evidence to suggest that we need exercise during this time more than any other time. So, and if you're a parent out there, I'm seeing that some parents are really struggling to keep their kids engaged, keep their kids from sleeping all day or being on electronics all day, and kind of balancing their work. home life and work life together. And I get it. I'm home some of the days myself. My wife's home most of the days. And so I'm here with kids trying to get them to kind of stay on task, do chores, do schoolwork, do exercise, do fun, do creative stuff. So just want to encourage you, if you're one of those folks that's struggling right now, to know that you're not alone in this. You're not. You may feel alone, but it's really important to recognize that we all share in humanity this struggle, that this is something totally different and unique to us. And I want to really encourage you to ask for help if you need it.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Reese and Mr. Smith. Those are great. And I remember talking to you guys the first time when we were thinking about this and joking around, say, okay, well, when it first got postponed, okay, we got an extra week of spring break. Have fun, guys. You think that kind of stuff. And then we got to about Friday of the second week of spring break and said, okay, we're not doing this again. So a little bit of what Dr. Beach was saying there. And I think the old expression that I've heard a lot of times is you can attack your week with a plan, or your week will attack you, or your day. And so I think utilizing some of those tools and suggestions can be really helpful during this time. I know one of the things we also talked about, and Mr. Smith, I'd love for you to share a little bit about in our county is enormous. Our school district is enormous in Comel ISD. And it's really easy. I know even for me, you kind of get in your little section that you're in, and you just think that's how the whole district is. But this is also a time where there's a lot of concern and awareness, I know, for folks like us with Hill Country Hope for Mental Health, Dr. Beach, and the school district yourself. Do you mind sharing a little bit of that, just so people can have some awareness to know during this time, like Dr. Beach was just mentioning, to be able to look around, pay attention to other people, pay attention to, and to check in on people, and why that might be so important, especially with students?
Absolutely. And Dr. Beach is spot on with what he's talking about. As a dad of two teenage daughters, that was the struggle that we were talking about, is getting a schedule. And like most kids, both of my daughters are completely different. I had one that she put the schedule out, she created it, it's very organized. The other one, not so much. But the accountability piece for parents, it's nice to have that schedule, but there has to be some accountability. Hey, making sure we're checking in on them, but also building ownership on that. We as parents don't want to dictate that, because then there's not any buy-in. But as far as the school district, some of the things, set aside the academic thing. Obviously, that is very important. But again, what Dr. Beach was talking about, the milestones that these kids are missing, that's a big thing. And we don't understand as adults that in this time of development, their friends and their peers are so important. That is such a big thing to them, and they're being removed from that. Yes, there's FaceTime and all that kind of stuff, but that interaction is missing. And then as a principal, I think of all the kids that we support, not only academically, but emotionally. And we've talked about it, that a lot of times the school is the safe place. That is a place where there are norms. There's a place that students get 2 meals a day. Right now, the school district is doing a fantastic job of providing meals. We're tracking that. There are literally thousands of meals that are being distributed every day. I think the latest number was close to 5,500 meals. And
I'll just add too, Mr. Smith, as you say that, I was most thankful that was the first thing that the district addressed. And so I just want to say thank you to the district and you and that. The other
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So sorry to interrupt, but wanted to.
No, that's fine. So as neighbors and as friends, you need to be aware of that. Kids, the first thing, this is an extended break. This is great. But for some students, that this isn't pleasant for them, and that there are stressors at their house. And I'm not placing blame on any parents, but unemployment rate is rising, and so you add the idea of unemployment, and now I have this unusual situation where I have my kids here 24/7. I have to provide the education, because wherever you are, like I talked about my 8th grade daughter. there's parts of our eighth grade year that this is very important. There are some things in here that we do academically that obviously we're never going to replace. But if we allow them to stay up till 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning and then sleep all day, and yeah, I guess it would be easier for a parent to allow that kid to sleep so I can get my work done. But that's not very helpful to anyone. And we are going to go back to school eventually. And for them to be thrust into that again, where you're managing, depending on what grade level you're managing 7 different classes and all the work. I think that's what we were going to talk about. If this hadn't happened at the library, we're going to talk about managing all of that, managing all those stressors and all that kind of stuff. So things have changed. And then I think as a principal and as a dad, okay, so we're going to get it April, maybe get back in May. So we're going to go the month of May, and then we're out in June, and there's summer. And so there's another extended break right on top of that. And so that's just a long time. And to my kids' defense, we talk every night. They want to go back to school. They want to be around their friends. They want to have that structure. They want to have that. And so we as parents right now, we got to try to create some of that. So when we do go back, it's not going to be such a shock to the system.
It's funny. When I have 2 teenage boys, as you guys know as well, and one of the jokes I've had with them over the last couple of years is, when they're complaining about school, is you don't actually dislike school. It's working that you dislike. You actually what would you think about school? Y'all ask them, what would you think about school if you didn't have to do any work? Oh, it'd be awesome. So I think now they're gaining some of that appreciation, like you said, of, wow, I really miss going to school. I miss seeing my friends. I miss these opportunities. And hopefully some of them even, I miss being challenged. I miss learning. I miss those things that are good for us too. So Dr. Beach, did you have anything you wanted to share in regards to just some of the?
Yeah, some of the things you guys mentioned made me think that what's really, I think, important in this time, and Ms. Smith alluded to it, is to not view this time as forever. That, as he said, someday kids will be going back to school and parents will be going back to the workplace or things like that. And so what I really want to encourage folks to do is to really, think about the end of this, what this will look like at the end of it, whether that's 60 days from now, 90 days from now, and the end may not be completely the end, but when things are a little bit more normal. And so if we really live for the moment, then when 30, 60, 90 days is up, we're likely to have a lot of regrets. Man, I didn't work out during that time. I didn't practice my basketball skills. I let my instrument, just kind of sit in the corner. And so really trying to think about, what do I want to be? Who do I want to be when this thing is over? Do I want to be better, or do I want my mind to kind of have that kind of brain shrink that sometimes happens after a long break? Do I want to be able to pick up, right? Like when sports picks back up, even though, like I've talked with swimmers, that they're not able to go to their pools, a lot of them. And so they have to really work on dryland work. And I have, golfers sometimes, some of them can get to the course. Some of them can't. Some of them have to work on real specific skills. But what are the exercises I can do, and focusing on that instead of I'll start when I can do the things I want to do, and really trying to live now for the future. Stephen Covey talks about, begin with the end in mind. And he's talking about picturing that kind of activity. It's a little bit morbid, but picturing what do you imagine people saying at your funeral? But I think about, in this situation, the end of this, kind of isolation period. What do I want that to look like? And so really trying to think now about, what do I need to do? What habits daily do I need to get into? What things have I always wanted to do that I have not had the time to do? I've always wanted to learn that guitar. I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to learn piano. I'm going to learn a new skill, learn how to sew. I'm going to learn how to do something creative, that this could be a great time to do it. And so I'd say self-awareness, And self-acceptance is really important. And so really being able to kind of, if you're a parent that's struggling with, I just am not able to get them, on this real rigid routine that I want, really be patient with yourself and show self-acceptance as well. So self-compassion is another way to describe that. Kristen Neff has done a lot of research on this at UT in Austin, and she got a website, self-compassion.com. I believe it's .com. It could be .org, but really some good research. You can even take an assessment of how much self-compassion am I showing, and really being aware of that. We've got to kind of be kind to others in this and show patience to them. We really have to be kind to ourselves and realize that we're all adjusting to something that is really, we're strangers in a strange land with this. This is a new thing for all of us.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Beach. That was a good psychologist answer, wasn't that, Mr. Smith?
Very good.
Good job. And we appreciate you guys so much and taking the time to do this. And you've already begun to share some tips, resources, ideas. Would love for you to do that. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm a dad working full time. I'm finishing up a master's in counseling program in May. We're supposed to have graduation, but we'll see how that works out. Have 3 kiddos at home. What are some tips, some resources that you guys might be able to give to families? And I know each of you are in the same type of situation, working, have kiddos at home as well through all of this. And I will just mention, as families, as you're watching this, wherever you find this video located, we'll also tag or include a PDF with some different resources or tips as well for you that you can click on. But gentlemen, what are some of the things that you might put at the top of your list to say, hey, families, here's some things that I found that might be helpful, whether it's practically just at home, whether it's education related.
Well, I guess from the educational standpoint, most school districts, I just kind of look around at what other school districts are doing just to kind of compare what we're doing as a school district. And most school districts have now set up just a wealth of resources on their websites. A lot of them, it's COVID-19 information, and you go to that link. Comal ISD has done a great job of that. And there are all sorts of links there to help with a lot of the different things that we're dealing with. And so I would absolutely recommend reaching out to your local school district. If you're not in the Comal ISD, if you're Northeast or New Braunfels, all of those school districts have set up resources for parents, not only for the academic stuff, but also the social, emotional, child nutrition, things that you can do. So school districts have done a really good job. I just can't say enough how much I appreciate the communication lines that we've been involved in the Comal ISD. But yeah, I would definitely think that would be a good thing. The ownership piece with the kids, just working with kids, we as parents, we want to set it up for them, have them follow it, all that kind of stuff. You got to give them some choice. And the choice is no from 9 to 10 is not free time. But you have to do something like Dr. Beach. There needs to be some time for exercise. There needs to be some time for reading. There needs to be a time for new skills. It's okay. We found that it's okay to say there needs to be a time where we do some things around the house that have been sitting there for a very long time. There is one thing that I don't know how useful it is, but and it goes along with what Dr. Beach was saying, is that I've started a morning walk that I don't normally do because I leave before the sun is up and I come home and the sun is down. So I don't really walk the neighborhood, but I've started walking the neighborhood. And I thought it'd be neat to do a little message to my kids. And honestly, I was thinking, I could do this till April 6th. Well, now I'm going to have to do it till April 24th. So, and my neighborhood is in the hill country, so there are a lot of hills. So on my video, I have to strategically place where I'm going to do it so I'm not out of breath. But if you go on, it's on Twitter, but we also post it. We email it. And it's just a little message that I do, and I call it Mr. Smith's Neighborhood. And I have a fact about Mr. Rogers, and there's a lot of neat things that we can learn from Mr. Rogers, believe it or not. And so that's a resource that if anybody wants to watch me on Twitter, that'd be great. I'm not trying to do a shameless plug or anything.
What's that Twitter handle, Mr. Smith?
It is Chris J. Smith at SBMS Wranglers, at SBMS Wranglers. And so going along with what Dr. Beach saying, when I started this, there's this one hill about 5 minutes into the walk that used to just kill me. And I couldn't now that I've done it for 2 weeks, I'm thinking about extending the walk. It's about a 45-minute walk. I'm thinking about going to an hour. And if you could do that, if anybody can do like practicing an instrument, doing something, if you could do that every day for the next, like I said, we have 24 days coming up. You can do anything for 24 days. It's going to get easier. You're going to get better. And you're going to come out of this accomplishing something. What a great thing that I took this opportunity. There's no regrets, and we're going to do this. And so I guess for me personally, it's that morning walk and me connecting to my kids in the community. And I've had some people actually email me and retweet it, and it's kind of a neat thing. So, and wasn't like me at all. Before this, I was not a technology guy. I was not a social media guy. A Zoom meeting was very foreign to me. Now I'm doing them all the time. So there are some benefits that are coming out of this very negative time. So,
yeah, that was part of even why we decided to do this like this, recording a Zoom meeting, since we're all using it to. Our kids are going to be starting to, use it more and more with teachers or Google Meets or whatever. That's very similar. Mm-hmm. And so just sharing that, there's a lot of good that can come from these resources as well, depending on how we use them. I'll just tell you one of the things that I found. I went searching on that Friday that I mentioned. I said, we're not going to do this anymore. So I went searching for an app and found an app called Our Home, I think, or Our House. And it allows me to just set chores and things. And so I've done that where, every day there's a certain amount of being outside or working out or doing something physical, a certain amount of reading and all those things. And my kiddos can pull that up on their phone, do it, click it off. And we can, talk about it, things like that from there. And so there's a lot of resources like that out there. Parents, if you've never used, if you have an Apple device, you've never used screen time, this might be a great time to figure out about those things. And here's the beauty of this technology world. There's a YouTube video on everything. So the things that drive us crazy sometimes with our students always being on YouTube, we can use some of those to our advantage as well and go say, well, I don't know how to do this. How do I do it? And find somebody who can show us and walk us through it pretty easily as well with a lot of those things. Dr. Beach, were there some things that you wanted to toss out there as well?
Yeah, I just certainly want folks to think about being intentional about connection right now, given that you don't have that physical connection with folks outside your immediate family. And so to really try to be creative with that. I know you guys, we talked a little bit about the idea of having little virtual cocktail parties with neighbors, where you just kind of get a couple people together and they're at their homes, you're at your homes. You just kind of have a get together as if they came over for dinner. And I've, talked with other folks that are doing other creative ways to kind of reach out. But again, think about the people that are really most social, that are struggling most right now. And then I'd like people to think about the fact that if you have an awareness that this is especially hard for you, to really remember that you got to reach out to others for help. I know that there are counseling offices out there that are doing virtual appointments, during this time. Some people are saying, I think, maybe we'll kind of wait to get through this, and that's so totally fine. But don't let it build if you're really struggling. I know we have 4 counselors at our office, all of whom are doing video conferences as an option, virtual meetings, telehealth appointments. I know that for folks in real crisis, I know that Sigma Mental Health is doing virtual appointments as well for people in crisis. There are low fee opportunities for counseling at places like MHDD and Oakwood Church in New Braunfels that really offer those services. And so don't hesitate seeking help early or now if you need it. And then again, just really be intentional about connecting in a way that you can. Again, I'll reach out to that old friend when we can get together in person, but yeah, I'll plan on doing that. But in the meantime, I'm going to check in on them and see how they're doing and really get a visual, do a FaceTime call, do a Zoom meeting, something like that. It is foreign for some, but the more you get used to it, you'll appreciate. If 80% of communication is nonverbal, then having that visual really helps. Even if it's a little bit laggy and imperfect, it's so much better than having no visual at all. So really be intentional about those things is what I would suggest.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Beach. I'm going to just add to. Well, we'll include a lot of those organizations and places where you can seek help in that information and that PDF that you can click on with this. I also wanted to mention too, we're privileged in the area that we are in of Comal County, predominantly in the Comal ISD. I think we might have a little bit of Bear County in there, right? But we have a lot of great nonprofits and organizations that on a daily basis are serving and helping our area with different needs. And so if, as Mr. Smith said earlier, some people are losing their jobs, some people, there already was a financial challenge before all of this happened. And if that's you, if you need some assistance, please don't feel bad. Please don't allow those stigmas or pride to keep you from going and picking up lunch or breakfast at the school, going through to places like Provisions or the Hope Center or Bulverde Food Pantry, or just a few that come to mind. I'm not as familiar with New Braunfels ones, but I'll check those out to include some of those as well. But don't hesitate. The reason those people are there is because they care about this every single day. And so in a situation like this, they are all working really hard to be available and have resources available for you, if that is you, if that fits you. And so please don't hesitate to reach out to those places and utilize the resources and the people who are here to serve you. Our school district is one of those places that does that really well from an educational as well as just physical needs, nourishment standpoint. And so we're thankful for that in our county and community as well. Did you guys have any additional things that you wanted to add or share as we kind of wrap up?
Like I said, this is an important time for us to take care of each other and reach out, check on your neighbors, do what we can to create connections. This time more than any, I think we just need each other.
I would agree with that. And also, sometimes we think about this as it's kind of like a situation where we're almost at war. We're at war with this virus, and so for folks that have lived through things like World War II and other Vietnam and other crises, we all, the whole community, everyone had to kind of pull together in some way to get through it. And we're doing that now. We need to do that now. And so I think that some of our first responders are out there, having to face this head on. And our healthcare workers right now, they're our heroes right now. They're in the hospitals dealing on the front lines dealing with this. And so, gosh, if you know a medical provider, encourage them, lift them up, send them a message of encouragement and thanks, and be grateful for them. And so just like Mr. Smith said, this is a time to come together, even if physically we can't come together. Let's come together virtually and come together in unique and different ways and be creative about it.
Yeah, thank you guys. One of the things that's been really encouraging to me with what you just said, Dr. Beach, is take the opportunity to do things that we probably should do regularly, like thank the people working at the grocery store. even though we're out of some things, maybe when you go, they're working as hard as they can, and that's not their fault that we're out. Thank them, because they are going and being in places around people all the time, so that we can have, food and necessities and things like that at our home. Those first responders, second responders, medical professionals as well. Take those opportunities, those local businesses that are, doing things differently, doing drive-throughs and things like that. Try to go by a little bit here and there and support them in this during this season, and just say thank you. Just tell them, and if nothing else, just to say thanks. If it's a place that you would visit regularly, or call and order a gift card. If it's a place that that you would go, that gives them a little revenue for right now that you can then use later when you feel comfortable going. And so just a few little things. I want to thank you both very much. Mr. Smith, thank you for everything that you do and have done in our community, not just during this season, but before that. And thank you to the district for allowing and encouraging you to, take time to do things like this to benefit and bless families. And of course, your willingness and openness to do that as well. We appreciate you very much. And Dr. Beach and Beach Consulting, we appreciate you and your just continual involvement in the community. Way before this, you've been involved with a lot of programs and things at the school to help bring awareness and help students and families. So we thank you very much for that. And I hope that what you've seen is, if you've never worked with a mental health professional before, maybe you've seen in Dr. Beach today that can actually be just a good, normal thing that is helpful if that's where you're at too. And then I want to thank our Hill Country Hope for Mental Health team that's been working hard just to bring awareness and resources to our community, and continuing to do so. And Riverside Community Church as well for giving some time and resources to making all this happen and working on video things and all that kind of stuff. So we want to just thank you and hope that this is helpful for you. Hill Country Hope for Mental Health is available. You can go look us up online. And the whole goal is to bring awareness and resources for families so they can find hope, healing, and live that best version of their life possible. And so we thank you for the ways that we're able to partner with the school district and other resources in the community. And we're going to wrap it up now. So let us know in the comments. You can message us and let us know if there's things you'd like to know about for us to address maybe in a future thing, and bring in somebody specific that can help with all of us while we're at home and dealing with the implications of the COVID-19 virus on us, and especially from our education perspective and family. So thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Let me add a thanks for Jason for setting this up. Jason Carlettini does a lot in our community to help those in need. And so for his really vision of not only Hill Country Hope for Mental Health, but also the idea to kind of organize this video and to get it together and to make it happen. So thank you, Jason, for your contribution and volunteer hours that are numerous to our community and our area.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Y'all have a good time, and we'll see you soon.